The wooden hull groans beneath you, a deep and rhythmic sound like the breathing of a sleeping giant. Far above, the canvas sails snap gently against the rigging, catching the invisible currents of the night wind. There is no moon tonight, only the endless obsidian stretch of the Atlantic Ocean, merging perfectly with a star-dusted sky. Here, the world is reduced to its simplest elements: salt, wood, water, and time. You are drifting through history, carried by the currents of a forgotten age. Welcome to this quiet space of history and rest. Whether you are curling up under warm covers after a long day, or simply closing your eyes to escape the noise of the modern world, you are safe here. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your jaw. Allow the steady rhythm of the waves we are about to explore to become your own breathing. If you find comfort in these journeys into the past, you might quietly tap the like button or subscribe, a small signal like a lantern raised in the dark to let us know you are listening. But there is no pressure here. Just listen and let go. Now, let the solid ground fade from your memory. Let the walls of your room dissolve into the vast, open horizon of the Caribbean Sea 300 years ago. The transition from land to sea is not a sudden jump, but a slow surrender. For the men who found themselves aboard these wooden vessels during the golden age of piracy, the coastline did not vanish all at once. It became a thin gray line, then a smudge, and finally, nothing but memory. Many did not choose this life. They were merchants or sailors on legitimate vessels, intercepted by the sudden shadow of a sloop emerging from a fog bank. In the silence of the aftermath, a choice was often laid out: return to the crushing discipline of the Navy, or step across the rail into a life of democracy and danger. To step aboard was to accept that the land was no longer your home. The ship, with its creaking ribs of oak and pine, became the entire universe. Life below decks is a study in closeness and shadow. The air here is thick and still, carrying the permanent scent of tar, damp wool, and unwashed humanity. It is a dim cavern where sunlight rarely touches. Hammocks are strung in tight rows, swaying in unison with the roll of the ship, like a field of spiderwebs caught in a breeze. There is no privacy here, only a shared existence. When one man turns, the rhythm shifts for his neighbor. At night, the soundscape is a chorus of heavy breathing, the rustle of straw mattresses, and the ceaseless slapping of water against the hull inches from your head. It is a womb of wood, rocking you into a fitful, exhausted sleep. The day begins not with the sun, but with the watch. The routine of the ship is a circle that never closes. There are decks to be scrubbed with heavy holy stones, creating a rasping sound that echoes through the morning mist. There are sails to be mended, immense sheets of canvas, heavy with salt spray that must be stitched with thick waxed thread. The labor is repetitive, hypnotic. It serves a single purpose: to keep the vessel alive. A pirate ship is a living thing, prone to rot and ruin, constantly demanding the care of its inhabitants. The discipline is surprisingly rigid. Contrary to the chaos of legend, these floating societies are bound by the Articles, a written code of conduct sworn to by every man. It is a democracy of the desperate, where order is maintained not by a king, but by the mutual agreement of the crew. Food becomes a fixation when the horizon offers nothing but blue. the ship's stores are a timeline of decay. In the early weeks, there might be salted pork or dried peas, but as the months drag on, the diet hardens. The biscuits, known as hardtack, are solid as bricks, requiring a soak in water or ale to be edible. They are ancient things, tasteless and enduring. The crew dreams of fresh things, of crisp apples, green herbs, and the sharp, stinging sweetness of an orange. This longing is not merely hunger, it is the body crying out against the slow creep of scurvy, a silent grayness that softens the gums and saps the strength. The arrival of a captured crate of citrus or fresh turtles is met with a reverence usually reserved for gold. As the sun dips below the western edge of the world, painting the water in bruising shades of purple and gold, the true nature of the sea reveals itself. The night watch is a solitary vigil. Standing at the prow, looking out into the absolute darkness, the mind begins to wander. There are no landmarks here, no lights from distant towns, only the bioluminescent glow of the wake trailing behind, like a phantom river. In this isolation, the line between reality and dream blurs. Sailors speak of seeing islands that vanish upon approach, or hearing voices carried on the wind where no other ships sail. The stars above are the only map, a sprawling, glittering clock that marks the slow passage of the night. Sometimes the atmosphere shifts. The air grows heavy and static. The birds, usually constant companions, vanish. The sea turns a bruised, oily gray, and the swells deepen, lifting the ship high before dropping it into the troughs. A storm in the open ocean is a display of nature's absolute indifference. The wind does not howl, it screams, tearing at the rigging. The rain dissolves the boundary between air and ocean. Below decks, the world tilts violently. But even in the fury, there is a rhythm. The crew moves with practiced efficiency, lowering sails, battening hatches, working in harmony with the chaos. When the storm breaks, the calm that follows is profound. The ship, washed clean by the deluge, glides silently over a sea that has returned to glass. Violence, when it comes, is often a theater of shadows. The raising of the black flag, the Jolly Roger, is a ritual intended to freeze the blood. It is a psychological weight, a signal that civilization's rules no longer apply. The goal is rarely destruction. A sunken prize yields no treasure. Instead, it is a game of intimidation. Smoke from slow-burning fuses woven into beards, the clatter of cutlasses, the guttural shouts across the water. It is a performance designed to end the fight before it begins. When steel does meet steel, it is desperate and close, a flurry of motion in the smoke. But mostly, it is the waiting, the long, silent pursuit across miles of water, watching the prey slowly grow larger in the spyglass. There are moments of respite, brief interludes where the ship finds a hidden cove or a friendly port. The sensation of stepping onto dry land after months at sea is jarring. The ground feels solid, unmoving, dead. The senses are overwhelmed by the smell of earth, of roasting meat, of flowers and wood smoke. These are the days of spending shares, of loud taverns and fleeting comforts. But the land never truly feels like home anymore. The pirate walks with a rolling gait, eyes constantly scanning the horizon. The comfort of the shore is temporary. The call of the tide, with its promise of freedom and nothingness, always pulls them back. Even the end of the story is woven into the atmosphere of the era. Capture brings a different kind of journey, one of chains and damp stone cells in places like Port Royal. The trial is a formality, a piece of theater played out for the crowds. Standing on the gallows, looking out over the harbor, many saw the final view of the ocean they traversed. But not all stories ended in the noose. Some faded away, retiring into obscurity, hiding their scars and their tattoos under quiet lives, forever listening to the sound of the wind in the trees and hearing the phantom snap of sails. Now the ship sails on without us. It drifts into the fog of history, becoming a ghost upon the water. The sounds of the creaking timber and the splashing waves grow softer, more distant. The heavy, sweet scent of the Caribbean night lingers for a moment, then fades. You are left with the silence, the darkness, and the steady, comforting rhythm of your own rest. The ocean is vast and deep and timeless, and you are safe, drifting on the gentle currents of sleep. Good night. But the memory of the salt air lingers, heavy and cool against the skin. The ship does not disappear entirely. It remains anchored in the quiet spaces of the mind, a vessel of wood and shadow drifting on a sea of ink. There are nights when the wind dies completely, leaving the sails to hang limp and heavy from the yards. This is the calm, a silence so profound that it feels as if the world itself has stopped breathing. The water turns into a sheet of black glass, reflecting the cosmos above with such clarity that it becomes impossible to tell where the ocean ends and the sky begins. You are floating in a sphere of stars, suspended in the center of an infinite, glittering void. In this stillness, the ship speaks in a different language. Without the roar of the wind or the crash of the bow breaking the waves, you hear the settling of the timber. The hull groans softly, a deep, resonant sound like a cello played in a distant room. You can hear the gentle slap of water against the rudder, a rhythmic, lazy sound that marks the passing of seconds. The air is thick with humidity, clinging to your clothes, carrying the scent of damp canvas and old rope. It is a time of waiting, of patience taught by the slow rotation of the celestial sphere overhead. You look up, and the sky is crowded with light. For the sailor in this era, the stars are not merely distant suns, they are a map, a clock, and a companion. The Milky Way stretches across the zenith like a spill of diamond dust, a road of light guiding the way through the emptiness. You trace the constellations, learning their shapes until they are as familiar as the faces of the crew sleeping below. There is Polaris, the unmoving anchor of the north. There is Orion, the hunter, striding across the equator. Watching them drift slowly westward is hypnotizing, a reminder that the earth is turning, vast and steady beneath your feet. Looking over the rail, the darkness of the water is broken by a strange, ethereal light. As the ship drifts, the wake glows with a soft green fire. It is the sea sparkle, the bioluminescence stirred up by the movement of the hull. It swirls and eddies, painting trails of phantom light in the deep. Sometimes you see shapes moving within that glow, great fish or dolphins, streaking through the depths like comets, leaving bright, fading scars in the water. It is a reminder that the ocean is alive, a world unto itself, awake and moving even while the surface sleeps. The solitude of the night watch wraps around you like a heavy coat. There is no need for words here. The silence is a physical weight, pressing down, slowing the pulse. You lean against the rough wood of the railing, feeling the stored warmth of the day's sun slowly leaching out into the cool night air. Your thoughts unspool, drifting loose and untethered. The worries of the land, the laws, the debts, the kings and their wars feel insignificant here. There is only the horizon, a faint seam where the darker gray of the sea meets the lighter gray of the sky, waiting for a dawn that feels hours, perhaps years away. Time loses its sharp edges. There are no bells ringing in the distance, no roosters crowing, no clocks ticking on a mantle. There is only the slow swing of the lantern hung by the helm, casting long swaying shadows across the deck planks. The light flickers, painting the wood in shades of amber and gold, revealing the grain and the wear of 1,000 footsteps. You watch the flame dance, mesmerized by its movement, finding a strange peace in the knowledge that for this moment there is nowhere else you need to be and nothing else you need to do. You are simply here, a witness to the night, drifting slowly through the long, quiet chapters of history.
The lantern's flame burns lower now, casting a warm amber circle that barely reaches the mast. Outside this small sphere of light, the world has dissolved into a soft, impenetrable gray. The air has grown cooler, heavy with a moisture that settles on every surface. You can feel it on the wooden rail under your hand, a thin, slick layer of dew that gathers in droplets on the brass fittings. The ship feels different in this damp stillness. The wood seems to swell, the ropes tighten with the humidity, and the smell of salt becomes sharper, cleaner, washing away the heat and dust of the day. A low mist begins to form on the surface of the water. It does not roll in with speed, but rises gently, born from the meeting of the warm ocean and the cool night air. It curls over the gunwales in slow, lazy tendrils, wrapping the ship in a blanket of white fog. The horizon, which was already lost to the darkness, is now completely erased. The ship feels as though it is floating in the clouds, suspended in a quiet void where neither sea nor sky exists. The mist muffles sound, turning the creak of the hull into a distant whisper and the lap of the waves into a soft, rhythmic hush. In this cocoon of fog, the sense of isolation is absolute, but it is not lonely. It is a protective solitude. The rest of the world, the bustling ports, the crowded markets, the navies patrolling the trade routes, feels impossible, like a dream you had long ago. Here, there is only the immediate reality of the timber beneath your feet and the moisture in the air. You are hidden, safe within the fog, drifting on a course set by the stars before they vanished. The ship moves forward with a ghost-like grace, slicing through the water with barely a sound, carrying you deeper into the quiet heart of the ocean. As the hours stretch on, a faint breeze begins to stir. It is gentle, barely enough to lift the hair from your brow, but it brings the ship to life. The canvas sails above you, which had been hanging limp,
now catch the air with a soft, hollow thud. The rigging hums a low note, a vibration you can feel through the deck. The vessel responds to the wind not with a lurch, but with a slow, deliberate lean. It heels over gently, finding its groove in the water, and the rhythmic rocking motion returns. It is a steady, hypnotic sway, back and forth, lullabying the mind into a deeper state of rest. Below the grate near your feet, the ship is beginning to wake, though very slowly. You catch the faint, earthy scent of wood smoke drifting up from the galley. The cook is awake, stirring the embers of the firebox, preparing the morning's warm water. The smell is grounding, a reminder of hearth and home in the middle of the wilderness. It mixes with the scent of the sea, creating an aroma that is uniquely maritime: salt, oak, tar, and smoke. It is a smell that signals comfort, a promise that even in this vast emptiness, there is warmth to be found. You turn your gaze forward again, staring into the swirling gray. There is no rush to reach the dawn. The night feels spacious, with room enough for all your thoughts to unspool and dissolve into the mist. The ship is a cradle, the sea is a blanket, and the wind is a breath that carries you effortlessly forward. You are simply drifting, held by the water, moving slowly through the quiet, endless currents of time. The mist does not lift, but rather it seems to settle deeper into the grain of the wood. The moisture is heavy now, saturating the air so thoroughly that each breath feels cool and liquid in the lungs. You can see the condensation gathering on the thick, twisted ropes of the rigging. It forms into heavy, clear beads that cling to the hemp fibers for a long moment, trembling with the gentle vibration of the ship before falling silently to the deck. There is a quiet, rhythmic dripping sound that echoes softly around you, a delicate percussion that marks the passing of time in this gray, formless world. The ship is no longer just a vessel sailing on the sea. It has become a part of the atmosphere, a wooden island absorbing the silence of the clouds that have descended to meet the waves. Above you, the great canvas sails have darkened with the dampness. They hang heavy and curved, holding the faint wind with a gentle, persistent tension. You watch the fabric undulate slowly, breathing in and out with the breeze. It is a slow, hypnotic movement, like the chest of a sleeping giant. The sound of the wind moving over the wet canvas is different now, softer and deeper, a hushed rushing noise that blends perfectly with the wash of water along the hull. There is no snap or flutter, only a constant low murmur of propulsion. The ship is moving, but the motion is so smooth, so devoid of friction, that it feels less like sailing and more like drifting on a current of air. Leaning over the side, you look down into the water, but the surface is hidden beneath the layer of low fog. You can hear it, though. You hear the water parting around the bow, a sound like silk being torn very slowly. Occasionally, a small swell rolls along the length of the ship, lifting the timber beneath your feet in a long, slow arc before setting it down again. This rhythm is ancient. It is the same motion that has rocked every vessel since the first log was hollowed out and set adrift. It enters your body through the soles of your boots, traveling up your legs and settling in your chest, slowing your own heart rate to match the deep, lethargic pulse of the Atlantic. The darkness has a texture here, It is not the sharp black dark of a cellar, but a soft charcoal gray that seems to have depth and weight. It wraps around the masts and the spars, softening their edges until they look like sketches in charcoal against a slate sky. You can barely make out the shape of the crow's nest high above, a lonely basket floating in the vapor. It feels as though the rest of the world has simply ceased to exist. There are no continents, no islands, no other ships. There is only this pocket of mist and the wooden planks you stand on. The isolation is complete, yet it brings a profound sense of safety. Nothing can find you here. The fog is a fortress, and the silence is your shield. Down below, through the grate, the sounds of the sleeping crew have settled into a unified hum. Hundreds of men are suspended in their hammocks, swaying in unison with the roll of the ship. You can imagine the scene, the rows of canvas slings swinging like pendulums in a grand clock, measuring out the night in inches. The air down there would be warm and still, a sharp contrast to the cool, fresh vapor on deck. But up here, you are the sole witness to the ocean's quietude. You are keeping watch not over danger, but over the peace itself, standing guard while the ship breathes and the ocean sighs. As you stand there, the smell of the sea changes again. It loses the sharp tang of salt and takes on a deeper, earthier note, the scent of the deep ocean where the water is cold and light never reaches. It smells of kelp forests swaying miles beneath the keel, of ancient currents that circle the globe, of things that are old and enduring. It grounds you, this scent. It reminds you that while the ship is small and fragile, it is held by something vast and enduring. The water is not an enemy tonight. It is a cradle, vast and deep, rocking the ship with a gentleness that belies its power. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the cool mist settle on your face, feeling the sway, listening to the drip of the dew, and you simply drift. The dampness seems to deepen the silence, acting as a heavy velvet curtain that dampens even the thoughts in your mind. You run your hand along the smooth, worn wood of the gunwale, and your fingers come away wet and cool. The timber here has been polished by years of salt spray and the touch of countless hands, worn down to a texture that feels more like stone than wood. It is solid and unyielding beneath your touch, a reassuring constant in a world of shifting water and drifting vapor. There is a smell rising from the deck now, a rich, organic scent of wet oak and old tar that has been steeped in the humidity. It is the smell of the ship's history, a memory of every storm it has weathered and every calm it has endured, released now by the heavy dew. In this stillness, the ship seems to settle into itself. You can hear the minute adjustments of the vessel as it rides the gentle swell. It is a language of soft groans and whispers, the sound of joinery shifting by fractions of an inch. A plank sighs near the mainmast. A block creaks softly high in the rigging, a wooden knuckle turning in its socket. These are not sounds of distress, but of comfort. They are the sounds of a structure that knows the water, a vessel that has learned to yield to the sea rather than fight it. You find yourself listening to this conversation between wood and water, letting the slow, rhythmic creaking guide your breathing, deeper and slower. The fog moves with a life of its own, swirling in slow-motion eddies around the base of the masts. It catches the faint glow of the stern lantern, diffusing the light into a soft, amber halo that hangs suspended in the air. The light does not pierce the darkness so much as stain it, creating a small, warm bubble of visibility that extends only a few feet in any direction. Beyond that glow, the world is a blank slate of gray. You watch the mist drift through the light, tiny particles of water dancing in the air like dust motes in a sunbeam, turning and tumbling in slow, unseen currents. It is mesmerizing to watch, a silent ballet that requires nothing of you but your presence. You walk slowly toward the helm, your boots making no sound on the wet deck. The wheel stands there, a great circle of wood and brass, silent and waiting. The spokes are thick, carved from heavy teak, darkened by the oil of human palms over decades. Even with no hand upon it, the wheel moves slightly, rocking back and forth a few degrees in sympathy with the rudder down below. It connects you through shafts and ropes to the dark water beneath the keel. You can feel the weight of the ocean pushing against the rudder, a gentle, insistent pressure that travels up through the deck. It is a physical connection to the deep, a handshake with the Atlantic. Time feels expansive here, stretched thin by the lack of landmarks. There is no way to measure the hour. It could be midnight or the hour of the wolf just before dawn. It does not matter. The urgency of the day has evaporated. You are existing in a space between times, a long suspended moment where the only task is to exist. You lean back against the mizzenmast, feeling the vibration of the wind traveling down through the wood into your spine. It is a low, steady hum, a frequency almost too deep to hear, but one that resonates in the chest. It is the purr of the ship, content in its motion, carrying you safely through the void. Far below the waterline, the ocean is moving in vast, slow currents that circle the globe. You think of the depth beneath you, miles of cold, crushing dark, and yet it does not feel frightening. It feels foundational. It is the bedrock upon which this small wooden world floats. The ship is a speck, a tiny chip of life on the back of a leviathan, and yet the ocean holds it up with a gentle, fluid strength. The sway becomes more pronounced for a moment, a long, rolling motion that tilts the world slowly to the left, holds it there for a breath, and then rocks it slowly back to the right. It is the most soothing motion imaginable, a rocking chair the size of a cathedral, lulling the mind into a state of absolute, weightless drifting. Your eyes grow heavy, mirroring the heavy air around you. The fog seems to wrap tighter, bringing the horizon in until it is just the length of your arm. The world has shrunk to this: the wet wood, the amber light, the soft creak of the rigging, and the rhythmic lap of the water. There is nothing else. The past is a fading shoreline behind you. The future is a hidden port somewhere ahead. But here, in the mist, there is only the now. A quiet, damp, peaceful now that stretches out forever, inviting you to let go, to sink deeper into the warmth, and to drift along with the slow, steady heartbeat of the sea.
The condensation continues to gather, turning the intricate web of rigging above you into a lattice of liquid jewels. Every rope, from the thickest stay to the finest halyard, is coated in a sheen of moisture that captures the faint, diffused light of the lantern. You watch a single droplet form on a line near your head. It grows slowly, heavy and perfectly round, fighting gravity for a long moment before it finally releases. It falls through the silence,
and lands on the deck with a soft, distinct tap. This sound is not lonely. It is part of a slow, irregular rhythm, a quiet conversation between the fog and the ship that has been going on for hours. The air has a taste to it now, a mixture of cold iron and deep salt. It is the taste of the open ocean, far from the dust of land or the smoke of cities. Breathing it in feels like drinking from a cold spring. It cools the throat and settles deep in the chest, bringing a physical sense of clarity. The humidity has dampened the wood of the deck so thoroughly that the usual creaks of footsteps are silenced. If you were to walk the length of the ship, you would move like a shadow, making no sound, leaving no trace but a faint disturbance in the swirling mist. The ship demands quiet, and the ocean enforces it. You turn your attention to the main mast, a massive pillar of pine rising up into the gray void. It is the spine of the vessel, rooted deep in the keel and reaching for a sky you cannot see. Hugging the wood, you can feel the subtle vibrations of the life of the ship. It hums with a low-frequency energy, a resonance transferred from the wind in the sails and the water against the rudder. It feels strong, unshakable. Even in this fragile suspension of fog and water, the mast stands as a testament to endurance. It has weathered storms and calms, sun and ice, and tonight it simply stands, holding up the heavy, wet canvas in the stillness. The fog seems to have thickened near the surface of the water, creating a soft white floor that the ship glides over. You cannot see the waves anymore, but you can hear them with greater clarity. The water sounds closer, intimate. It laps against the wooden planks of the hull with a gentle slurping sound, like a creature drinking. Occasionally, a deeper sound rises from below, a hollow thud as the bow meets a slightly larger swell. It resonates through the timber, a heartbeat that travels up through the soles of your boots. It reminds you that the ship is a hollow thing, a shell of wood protecting a pocket of warm air and sleeping men from the infinite cold of the deep. In the amber glow of the stern lantern, the brass fittings of the wheel begin to gleam with a soft, muted fire. The moisture has dulled their shine, turning them into pools of liquid gold. You trace the curve of the metal with your eyes. It is cool and smooth, shaped by the hands of craftsmen who are long gone. Every rivet, every band of metal tells a story of care and precision. In this light, the ship does not look like a machine of war or commerce. It looks like a work of art, a sculpture of wood and metal drifting through a gallery of mist. The beauty of it is quiet, functional, and profound. Your gaze drifts outward again, trying to penetrate the wall of fog. There is nothing to see, and that emptiness is a relief. The eyes do not need to focus. They can soften, letting the gray wash over them. There are no horizons to scan, no threats to identify, no landmarks to measure progress. There is only this immediate sphere of existence. The world has shrunk to the comfortable dimensions of the deck. You are wrapped in a blanket of vapor that hides you from time itself. The past is a story written in a book you have closed. The future is a shore you have not yet reached. There is only the gentle rocking, the cool air, and the peace of the drift. A sense of heaviness begins to settle in your limbs, a pleasant, warm weight that pulls your shoulders down. It is the feeling of absolute surrender to the motion of the vessel. You are no longer bracing against the sway, you are moving with it. Your breathing has synchronized with the slow heave of the ocean. In as the ship rises on a long, slow swell. Out as it settles back into the trough. The distinction between your body and the ship begins to blur. You are simply another part of this floating world, silent and at rest, carried effortlessly through the night by forces far greater and older than yourself.
The ship continues its slow, phantom glide through the mist, moving with a grace that defies its immense weight. You can feel the forward momentum only as a gentle pressure against the soles of your feet, a subtle suggestion of travel in a world where all landmarks have vanished. The water along the hull does not splash or break. It slides past the wood with a silken, hush-like sound, as if the ocean is whispering secrets to the timber. It is a continuous, fluid noise, a white noise of nature that wraps around the mind and insulates it from any sharp or sudden thought. The friction of the world has been removed, leaving only this effortless, gliding drift into the unknown. High above, the mist catches in the complex geometry of the rigging, turning the ropes into ghostly lines drawn against the gray sky. The wind has dropped to barely a breath, just enough to keep the heavy canvas sails filled with a soft, convex shape. They do not flap or shudder. Instead, they hold the air quietly, like lungs holding a deep breath. Every now and then, the ship rolls slightly deeper into a trough, and the sails exhale a low, rustling sound, a soft sigh that ripples down from the yards to the deck. It is the sound of the ship sleeping, a mechanical respiration that matches the slow, rhythmic heaving of the sea beneath it. You wander slowly toward the bow, your movement unhurried, your boots finding purchase on the damp, darkened planks. The wood here is ancient, seasoned by salt and sun until it is hard as iron, yet it feels warm and organic underfoot. Shadows stretch out from the base of the masts, long and soft-edged in the diffused light of the stern lantern. As the ship rocks, these shadows lengthen and contract, breathing with the vessel. They are not menacing, they are companions, dancing a slow, silent waltz across the deck. You watch them slide over a coil of rope, obscuring the texture of the hemp, then retreating to reveal it again, a cycle of revelation and concealment that repeats endlessly. Leaning over the rail at the front of the ship, you look down into the water where the cutwater slices through the sea. Even here, the violence of movement is absent. The water parts obediently, curling away in smooth, glassy sheets that fold back into the darkness. There is no foam, no white spray, just the dark, heavy liquid moving aside to let the vessel pass. It is mesmerizing to watch the water peel away, revealing the black depths for a fraction of a second before closing up again behind you. It reminds you that you are just a visitor here, passing through a world that heals itself instantly in your wake, leaving no trace of your passage. The silence is so profound that you become aware of the smallest sounds, sounds that would be lost in the daylight. You hear the faint metallic clink of a loose chain swaying somewhere near the anchor. You hear the drip of condensation falling from the boom to the deck, a rhythmic tap, tap, tap that sounds like a slow clock ticking in an empty room. You can even hear the settling of the cargo deep within the hold, the muffled shift of barrels and crates adjusting to the sway. These sounds are the heartbeat of the ship, the internal monologue of a structure that is resting as it moves. They are comforting, proof that the vessel is sound, that it is holding together, that it is carrying you safely through the void. The air around you feels dense, not just with fog, but with time itself.
It feels as though the clocks of the world have stopped, or perhaps they simply do not exist out here. There is no urgency to reach a destination. The port you left is a memory. The port you seek is a dream. All that exists is this suspended interval, this gray, quiet now. You feel a deep sense of permission to let go of any timeline. You are not late, you are not waiting, you are simply being. The heavy, moist air settles on your shoulders like a weighted blanket, encouraging you to sink deeper into the relaxation that has taken hold of your limbs. As you stand there, staring into the soft, swirling nothingness of the fog, the distinction between the sea and the sky completely disappears. You are floating in a capsule of gray peace. The gentle, rocking motion of the deck travels up through your legs and settles in your chest, slowing your pulse to match the lethargic rhythm of the swell. It is a rocking that goes back to the beginning of time, a soothing, repetitive motion that speaks directly to the part of you that craves rest. You close your eyes, trusting the ship, trusting the water, and let yourself drift further into the calm, heavy silence of the night. With your eyes closed, the other senses begin to sharpen, tuning into the subtle frequencies of the night. The sensation of the mist on your skin becomes a delicate, cooling presence, a soft weight that seems to press the relaxation deeper into your muscles. You can feel the moisture gathering on the rough wool of your coat, turning the fabric heavy and damp. It is a comforting weight, like a thick quilt pulled up against the chill, wrapping you in a layer of protection against the outside world. The air you breathe is slow and rich, tasting of deep water and ancient currents, filling your lungs with a calm, rhythmic coolness that matches the slow heaving of the deck beneath your feet. The ship moves with a languid, rolling gait, a motion that feels less like travel and more like a slow, deliberate breathing. You can feel the timber shifting beneath your boots, a subtle flex of the wood as the hull adjusts to the shape of the water. It is a conversation between the oak and the ocean, a dialogue of pressure and release that has been spoken for centuries. This constant, gentle adjustment travels up through your legs, loosening the tension in your knees and hips, encouraging your body to sway in harmony with the vessel. You are no longer resisting gravity, you are flowing with it, a passenger on a tide that stretches out to the ends of the earth. In the quiet, the sounds of the ship become a kind of music, a slow, atonal symphony of wood and rope. You hear the faint, dry creak of a block turning high above in the darkness, a sound like a cricket in a summer field. You hear the soft, rhythmic slap of a loose line against the mast, a heartbeat of hemp and pine. And deeper down, you hear the muffled groan of the ship's ribs, the heavy structural timbers settling into the water. These sounds are not intrusive. They are the white noise of safety, the auditory proof that the ship is holding together, that it is strong, and that it is carrying you through the void without effort. The fog acts as a dampener, absorbing the vastness of the ocean and reducing the world to this intimate wooden island. There is no horizon to scan, no distant stars to navigate by. The universe has contracted to the few feet of deck around you, a small, warm circle of existence. This limitation is a gift. It frees you from the need to look ahead, to plan, or to worry. There is nothing to see, so there is no need to watch. There is nowhere to go, so there is no need to rush. You are simply here, suspended in a gray, quiet space, where time has ceased to matter. The heavy air holds you in place, a gentle restraint that keeps the mind from wandering back to the land. As you drift deeper into this state of rest, you become aware of the stillness of the water itself. It is not the crashing, chaotic ocean of the storms. It is a sleeping giant, breathing slowly in its slumber. You can visualize the black water extending down for miles beneath the keel, cold and silent and still. The ship is a tiny speck of warmth floating on top of this immense depth, held up by the density of the salt water. This knowledge brings a profound support. You are being held up, carried, and rocked by a force that is older than history. The ocean does not judge, it simply supports, lifting the ship and setting it down with an infinite, patient gentleness. The scent of the night shifts subtly, bringing with it the smell of the ship's cargo from deep in the hold. It is a faint, complex aroma that drifts up through the grates, the smell of old spices, dried tobacco, and sweet wood. It smells of distant islands and long voyages, of trade winds and tropical suns, that now it is mellowed by the cool, damp air. It is a grounding scent, heavy and rich, anchoring the ship in the physical world, even as the fog tries to dissolve it. Breathing it in feels like inhaling a story, a slow, quiet tale of travel and rest that settles deep in the mind. The lantern at the stern continues to burn, a steady amber eye in the mist. You can feel its warmth on your back, a gentle heat that radiates through the dampness. It casts long, soft shadows that stretch out across the deck, moving slowly back and forth with the roll of the ship. These shadows are not dark, they are just a deeper shade of gray, pools of quiet where the light has not reached. They wrap around the base of the masts and fill the spaces between the barrels, softening the hard edges of the world. Everything here is soft. The light, the sound, the movement, the air. It is a world without sharp corners, a fluid, drifting existence that invites you to dissolve into it completely.
The mist seems to dampen even the passage of time, slowing the turning of the world to a near halt. You stand by the rail, your hand resting on the damp wood, feeling the grain that has been raised by the moisture. It is a tactile map of the tree it once was, ridges and valleys worn smooth by the sea, but revived by the fog. The wood is cool to the touch, solid and grounding. It absorbs the warmth of your palm slowly, a silent exchange between the living heat of your body and the ancient, slumbering timber of the ship. You are connected here, anchored to this floating island that moves with such purpose through the featureless night. You turn your gaze upward, following the dark, vertical line of the mast until it vanishes into the gray vapor. The rigging that surrounds it is a complex web of shadows, lines drawn in charcoal against a slate sky. The ropes, swollen with the humidity, hang heavy and slack. They do not vibrate with tension tonight. Instead, they sway gently with the roll of the vessel, a slow pendulum motion that hypnotizes the eye. Occasionally, water gathered on a higher spar releases, falling through the darkness to strike the deck with a soft, distinct tap. It is a lonely, peaceful sound, like a clock ticking in an empty room, measuring out moments that no one needs to count. The silence here is not empty. It is full of presence. It is the hush of a vast library or a cathedral at night, a heavy, reverent quiet.
The ocean is breathing. You can hear it in the long, drawn-out sigh of the water sliding along the hull. It is a frictionless sound, the ocean parting obediently to let the ship pass and then closing up seamlessly behind it. There is no white water tonight, no frothing wake. There is only the dark, oily slide of the sea, moving with the sluggish power of deep currents. It wraps around the ship like a blanket, holding it, carrying it, rocking it with a rhythm that mimics the slow, steady beat of a resting heart. Walking slowly toward the bow, your boots make no sound on the saturated planks. The fog has swallowed the horizon completely. There is no line where the water ends and the sky begins. You are moving through a cloud, a sphere of soft, cool gray that extends infinitely in all directions. This lack of definition is soothing. The eyes do not need to focus or scan for danger. They can simply rest, letting the soft, diffused light of the stern lantern wash over them. The light does not pierce the fog, it glows within it, creating a warm, amber aura that feels protective and intimate. It is a small sun for a small world, casting long, soft shadows that stretch out and retreat with every heave of the swells. The air you breathe is thick and clean, tasting of salt and deep, cold water. It is an ancient air, untouched by land or smoke, recycled by the ocean for millennia. Each breath feels like it is cooling you from the inside, slowing your thoughts, settling the dust of the mind. You feel a heaviness in your limbs, a pleasant lethargy that invites you to lean harder against the rail, to let the ship take your weight. You are no longer bracing yourself against the motion. You have surrendered to it. Your body sways instinctively, correcting for the tilt of the deck without conscious thought. You have become part of the vessel's equilibrium, a piece of ballast in the calm, steady drift. Below you, the water is a mystery, hidden by the mist, but you can feel its depth. You sense the miles of dark, cold silence beneath the keel, the vast, pressure-filled void where nothing stirs. It is not frightening, it is foundational. It is the solid silence upon which this dreamlike journey rests. The ship floats on top of it, light and buoyant, a cradle of wood and air suspended over the deep. The gentle rocking motion is the ocean's way of singing a lullaby, a repetitive, unending motion that tells the body it is safe to rest, safe to close its eyes, safe to drift away into the fog. As you stand there, wrapped in the cool embrace of the mist, the memories of the land feel distant and faded, like a story heard long ago. The sharp edges of the day have been worn smooth by the night. There is no urgency here, no destination that demands your arrival. The ship is moving, but it is also still, caught in a timeless drift between the sea and the sky. You are exactly where you are meant to be, holding watch over the silence, letting the peace of the open ocean wash over you in slow, rhythmic waves. The stillness of the night is absolute, a physical weight that rests gently against the skin. You remain standing by the rail, but your gaze turns inward, lulled by the repetitive, soothing motion of the deck. The mist has dampened the wood so thoroughly that the ship smells of deep forests and ancient rain, a rich, organic scent that rises from the planks and mixes with the salt air. It is a smell that feels old and permanent, the scent of a vessel that has absorbed the ocean into its very fibers. You breathe it in slowly, letting the cool, heavy air fill your chest, cooling the blood and quieting the mind. The lantern at the stern continues its silent vigil, a solitary beacon in the white void. Its light catches the moisture hanging in the air, illuminating millions of tiny droplets that drift and swirl like diamond dust. They move in slow, lazy currents, stirred only by the passage of the ship and your own shallow breathing. Watching them is hypnotic. They dance and merge, appearing out of the darkness for a brief glittering moment before fading back into the gray. It is a microscopic universe of water and light, existing right in front of your eyes, demanding nothing, simply flowing. You shift your weight, and the leather of your boots creaks softly against the wet timber. It is the only sound you make. The rest of the ship is silent, save for the rhythmic language of the sea. The water laps against the hull with a sound like heavy silk being folded over and over. It is a frictionless, fluid noise, devoid of any crash or splash. It speaks of a calm sea, a surface so smooth that the ship does not cut through it so much as slide over it. This lack of resistance translates into a feeling of effortlessness. You are moving, traveling miles through the dark, yet there is no struggle, no force, only the gentle, inevitable drift. Above you, the rigging has become a ghostly architecture. The ropes, swollen with the humidity, hang slack and heavy. They act as dampeners, absorbing the vibrations of the ship. You can see the moisture clinging to the coarse hemp fibers, turning them dark and slick. Occasionally, a drop falls from a spar high above, plummeting through the layers of mist to land on the deck with a soft, distinct tap. It is a sound that marks the silence rather than breaking it. It reminds you of the height of the masts, of the vast canopy of canvas and wood that stretches up into the fog, holding the wind in its quiet embrace. The sense of isolation here is profound, but it is a warm isolation. The fog has wrapped the ship in a cocoon, erasing the horizon and the stars. There is no world beyond the rail. The complications of land, the noise, the lights, the demands of time have been erased. You are safe in this gray, floating room. The ship is your entire reality, a sturdy wooden island that knows the way. You do not need to steer. You do not need to navigate. You only need to exist, to let the current carry you, to trust the buoyancy of the hull. As the night stretches on, the rocking motion seems to slow even further. The swells are long and gentle, miles wide, lifting the ship with an imperceptible rise and lowering it with a smooth, gliding descent. It is the motion of a deep sleep, the chest of the ocean rising and falling. Your body mimics this rhythm. Your shoulders drop, your hands relax their grip on the rail, and your breathing deepens. You are sinking with the sea, finding a cadence that is slower than a heartbeat, slower than thought. A faint breeze stirs the mist, bringing with it a sudden cool freshness. It brushes against your face, carrying the scent of the open Atlantic, cold, clean, and vast. It feels like a cleansing breath, washing away the last traces of the day's heat. The canvas sails ripple softly in response, a low rustling sound that whispers through the rigging. It is a comforting sound, the voice of the ship whispering to the wind. You close your eyes again, listening to the creak of the wood, the sigh of the sails, and the lap of the water, letting the symphony of the calm sea pull you deeper into the quiet, heavy drift of the night.
The breeze settles as quickly as it arrived, leaving the air still once more. The canvas sails above you, which had stirred with a momentary breath of wind, now relax back into their heavy, curved shapes. They hang from the yards like sleeping bats, dark and motionless against the lighter gray of the mist. Without the wind to stiffen them, they absorb the dampness, becoming weighted and silent. You can feel this stillness in the wood of the deck under your feet. The subtle vibration of propulsion fades, replaced by the pure, unhurried drift of a vessel at the mercy of the current. It is a feeling of total suspension, as if the ship has been caught in a bubble of time where momentum no longer applies. You run a hand along the rough texture of a coiled rope secured to a belaying pin. The hemp is swollen with moisture, the fibers expanded and cool to the touch. It feels solid, a tangible connection to the work of the ship. But tonight it is resting. There is no tension in the line. It loops heavily over the iron pin, dripping water onto the deck with a slow, irregular rhythm. You trace the twist of the rope, feeling the coarse, wet surface, grounding yourself in the physical reality of the moment. These simple textures, wood, iron, hemp, are the only things that feel real in this world of vapor. They are the anchors that keep you from floating away into the fog. Walking slowly toward the center of the deck, you pass the main hatch, the grate that leads to the belly of the ship. A faint warmth rises from the opening, carrying the smell of the crew sleeping below. It is a scent of wool and sawdust, of bodies at rest and old timber. It is the smell of life, distinct from the sterile, clean scent of the mist. Down there, hundreds of men are lost in their own dreams, swaying in unison in the dark. Up here, you are the guardian of their rest, the only pair of eyes watching the nothingness. This solitude does not feel lonely, it feels privileged. You are the sole witness to the ocean's quietest hour. The amber glow of the stern lantern reflects off the wet deck planks, creating a path of soft golden light that stretches toward you. The wood gleams, revealing the wear of 1,000 footsteps, the grooves and knots that map the history of the tree it once was. You follow this path of light with your eyes, letting your gaze soften and blur. The reflection wavers slightly with the roll of the ship, a shimmering road that leads nowhere. Watching it is hypnotic. The light pools and retreats, mirroring the slow inhalation and exhalation of the sea. It draws the mind away from thought, focusing it entirely on the interplay of light and water. As you lean back against the solid wood of the mast, you feel the deep, resonant hum of the ship's structure. It is a frequency almost too low to hear, a vibration that travels up from the keel through the heart of the tree. It is the sound of the ocean pressing against the hull, a massive, gentle weight that holds the vessel in its embrace. You close your eyes and let this vibration settle into your spine. It feels steady, unshakable. It tells you that the ship is strong, that the wood is sound, that the water is holding you up. There is no need to worry about the depth or the distance. The ship knows the way. The fog seems to have a weight of its own, pressing down on the surface of the sea, smoothing out the waves until they are mere undulations. You can sense the vastness of the water extending out in every direction, miles of gray silence. It feels infinite, a world without edges. This limitlessness is soothing. It means there are no walls to confine you,
no barriers to reach. You are simply a point of consciousness drifting in a limitless expanse. The heavy air wraps around you like a blanket, dampening sound, slowing time, encouraging you to let go of the last remnants of alertness. Your breathing has slowed to match the lethargic rhythm of the swell. In, as the deck rises slowly, lifting you toward the invisible sky. Out, as the deck settles back down, lowering you toward the deep. It is a cycle that has no beginning and no end. It is the same rhythm that rocks the kelp forests far below and stirs the clouds high above. You are part of this cycle now. Your heartbeat is the ship's heartbeat. Your breath is the wind. You are no longer separate from the night. You are dissolved into it, a quiet, drifting shadow on a silent, sleeping sea. The water alongside the hull is a mirror of obsidian, dark and flawless in the stillness. It reflects the amber glow of the stern lantern, turning the light into a long, wavering smear of gold that stretches down into the deep. This reflection does not break, it bends, stretching and contracting with the slow, rhythmic breathing of the sea. It is a mesmerizing dance of light and shadow, a silent visual lullaby that holds your gaze without demanding focus. You watch the gold light dissolve into the black water, disappearing into the depths where the ocean is cold and still. The contrast between the warmth of the light and the cool darkness of the sea creates a feeling of balance, a perfect equilibrium between the ship and the elements. The mist continues to embrace the ship, softening every hard edge and dampening every sound. It has a physical presence now, a cool, gentle weight that rests against your skin. You can feel the moisture gathering on your eyelashes, cool and refreshing. The world beyond the rail has ceased to exist in any meaningful way. There is no horizon, no sky, no distant shore. There is only this pocket of gray silence, a sanctuary where the demands of the day cannot reach you. The fog acts as a buffer, insulating the ship from time itself. You are floating in a cloud, suspended in a quiet void, where the only reality is the wood beneath your feet and the air in your lungs. In this quietude, the ship's voice becomes a whisper. You hear the faint, dry groan of a timber settling deeper into the frame, a sound of relaxation rather than strain. You hear the rhythmic drip of condensation falling from the yardarm to the deck, a slow, steady tap that measures out the moments. These sounds are woven into the fabric of the night, a soft, organic soundtrack that deepens the sense of peace. The ship is not fighting the sea tonight, it is resting upon it. Every creak and sigh is a testament to the vessel's endurance, a reminder that it has carried you safely this far and will continue to carry you through the night. Your body feels heavy, anchored to the deck by a pleasant, warm lethargy. The tension in your shoulders has dissolved, carried away by the mist. You lean your weight against the smooth, damp wood of the rail, trusting the ship to hold you. The gentle rocking motion travels up through your boots, swaying you side to side in a microscopic arc. It is the motion of a cradle, ancient and instinctive, telling your muscles that it is safe to let go. You are no longer bracing yourself against the world. You are flowing with it, moving in harmony with the tides that circle the globe. Beneath the keel, the ocean stretches down into the profound dark. You can sense the depth, the miles of silent, cold water that support this tiny wooden world. It feels solid, a vast liquid foundation that cushions the ship. The vessel floats on this density, light as a leaf, held up by the sheer power of the Atlantic. There is no struggle here, only support. The ocean carries the ship, and the ship carries you. This realization brings a deep sense of security. You are held, supported, and protected by the very element that surrounds you. Time has lost its forward momentum. There is no ticking clock, no schedule, no dawn approaching on the horizon. There is only this extended moment of drift. You are suspended in the mist, floating between the sea and the sky in a state of perfect equilibrium. The past is a fading memory of land and noise. The future is a distant dream. All that exists is the cool air, the gentle sway, and the deep, abiding silence of the drift. You allow your eyes to close, feeling the mist settle on your face, listening to the slow breath of the ocean, and letting yourself sink deeper into the quiet, heavy comfort of the night. With your eyes closed, the other senses take over, painting a picture of the world that is softer and more intimate than the one seen by day. You can feel the minute changes in the air pressure against your skin as the ship rises and falls. It is a gentle compression, a subtle shift that tells your body exactly where you are in the rhythm of the swell. The mist feels like a cool, damp cloth pressed lightly against your forehead, smoothing away any lingering tension. It settles in the creases of your clothes, turning the fabric heavy and comforting, like a weighted blanket pulled up to the chin. You are wrapped in the weather, held by the atmosphere of the deep ocean. The silence is not a void, it is a texture. It is thick and velvet-like, absorbing the small noises of the night and turning them into something soothing. The creak of the rudder post turning ever so slightly in its housing sounds like a heavy door closing in a distant room. The water sliding past the hull creates a continuous white noise hush, a sound that mimics the blood rushing in your own ears. It is a loop of sound without a beginning or an end, a sonic circle that traps the mind and keeps it from wandering back to the worries of the land. You are safe inside this loop, protected by the steady, unceasing voice of the water. You imagine the hull beneath you, curved and smooth, slipping through the dark liquid like a needle through silk. The wood is old and strong, seasoned by years of salt and sun, until it has become as hard as stone. It knows the ocean. It knows how to yield to the pressure of the waves, how to roll with the punch rather than fight it. You trust this wood. You trust the craftsmen who shaped it, the oak trees that grew it, and the iron nails that hold it together. Standing there, leaning against the rail, you feel a deep sense of connection to the physical reality of the ship. It is carrying you, supporting you, holding you up above the miles of cold, silent depth. The amber light from the stern lantern seems to permeate your eyelids, a warm, diffused glow that colors your internal vision. It suggests a world that is soft and golden, a place where sharp edges and harsh lights do not exist. In your mind's eye, you can see the light reflecting off the wet deck, creating pools of liquid gold that shimmer with the movement of the ship. You can see the mist swirling through the beams, turning the air into a living, moving thing. This mental image is peaceful, a slow-motion film of light and vapor that plays on a loop, lulling you deeper into a state of rest. Time feels expansive, stretched thin by the lack of landmarks. There is no bell to mark the hour, no changing of the watch, no rooster to herald the dawn. There is only the long, dark stretch of the night. It feels as though this moment could last forever, as though the sun has decided to sleep in, leaving the world in this quiet, gray twilight. You feel no impatience. The concept of waiting has vanished. You are not waiting for anything. You are simply occupying the space, drifting through the hours with the same lack of urgency as the fog itself. The night is a vast, empty room, and you are comfortable in its center. A deep sense of heaviness settles into your bones, a pleasant gravity that anchors you to the deck. It feels as though your boots are rooted in the timber, as though you have become a fixture of the ship, as permanent and steady as the main mast. Your breathing is slow and shallow, requiring no effort. The air is rich and dense, filling your lungs with the coolness of the sea. Each exhale carries away a little more weight, a little more thought, leaving you lighter and more hollow, a vessel ready to be filled with the silence of the drift. Below the surface of the water, the ocean currents are moving with slow, unstoppable power. You can sense them, massive rivers of cold water circulating around the globe, unseen and unheard. The ship is riding one of these currents, carried along like a leaf on a stream. There is no need for sails or rudders tonight. The ocean is doing the work. You are being transported by the momentum of the planet itself, a passenger on a journey that requires nothing from you but your surrender. You let go of the last bit of control, leaning fully into the rail, and let the great dark ocean carry you forward into the mist. The current beneath the hull is invisible, a silent river within the sea that guides the vessel without a sound. You can feel its influence in the way the ship moves, a steady, inevitable pull that requires no wind and no effort. The sensation is one of being carried, of being cradled in the palm of a giant hand that is moving slowly across the face of the deep. There is no vibration from the rudder, no shudder from the sails. The movement is so smooth that if you closed your eyes, you might believe you were floating in the air, suspended in the gray mist that bridges the water and the sky. It is a feeling of weightlessness, a release from the friction of the world. The amber light from the stern lantern seems to grow softer as the night deepens. It does not push back the fog so much as stain it, creating a sphere of warm golden haze that hangs motionless in the air. Within this glow, the details of the ship take on a dreamlike quality. The brass fittings on the wheel are no longer metal. They are dull jewels weeping with condensation. The wet planks of the deck shine like polished obsidian, reflecting the light in long, wavering streaks that shift with every roll of the hull. You watch these reflections dance, slow and liquid, mesmerizing in their quiet beauty. They are the only things moving in a world that has otherwise come to a standstill. A singular drop of water falls from the boom above you, landing on your shoulder. It is cool and startling, a tiny reminder of the atmosphere that surrounds you. The moisture is everywhere now. It clings to the wool of your coat, turning the fabric heavy and damp. It settles in your hair and on your eyelashes. It coats the wooden rail in a slick, cool layer. But this dampness is not uncomfortable. It feels fresh, clean, and purifying. It is as if the fog is washing away the dust of the land, rinsing the mind clear, leaving only the simple, elemental sensation of being at sea. You turn your gaze toward the rigging, where the ropes disappear into the white void above. They are silent lines, holding the ship together without complaint. In the daylight, they are tense and singing with the wind, but tonight they are slack and peaceful. The complex knots, tied by hands long ago, are swollen with the mist, holding fast with a quiet strength. You think of the sailors sleeping below, trusting these ropes, trusting this wood, trusting the very air that holds the ship afloat. It is a web of trust that surrounds you, invisible but palpable, a safety net woven from hemp and oak. The silence of the ocean is not an absence of sound, but a presence of peace. It is a heavy velvet quiet that absorbs everything. Even your own breathing sounds loud in your ears, a rhythmic rise and fall that matches the cadence of the swell. You can hear the blood rushing softly, a personal tide that ebbs and flows with the movement of the ship. The outside world has fallen away completely. There are no distant shores, no other ships, no stars to guide you. There is only this immediate gray bubble of existence. You are alone, but you are not lonely. You are solitary, a quiet observer at the center of a sleeping world. As the ship rolls gently to port, you feel your weight shift, transferring from one foot to the other. It is an unconscious adjustment, a dance you have learned without realizing it. Your body knows the rhythm of the sea. It anticipates the sway, leaning into it, flowing with it. This physical harmony brings a deep sense of relaxation. You are not fighting gravity, you are working with it. You are fluid, adaptable, part of the liquid environment that surrounds you. The tension in your lower back releases. The tightness in your neck dissolves. You are melting into the motion, becoming as loose and drifting as the mist itself. Below the waterline, the hull slides through the black water with a hush. It does not cut or tear, it glides. The water parts willingly, creating a smooth, glassy path for the vessel. You imagine the dark wood slipping through the dark water, two ancient elements meeting in silence. There is no friction here, no resistance, just the smooth, easy passage of the ship through the night. It is the definition of ease. It is the feeling of a heavy burden being set down, of a long journey becoming effortless, of a destination that will arrive in its own time without you needing to take a single step. The sensation of drifting continues, a seamless slide through a world that has lost its friction. You remain standing at the rail, but your grip is loose, your hands resting on the wood merely for connection rather than support. The ship feels incredibly stable in this moment, a heavy, floating fortress that has settled deep into the water. It does not bob or bounce. It simply heaves, a slow hydraulic lift that raises you up toward the invisible stars and then lowers you back down into the cradle of the sea. This motion is so consistent, so rhythmic, that it becomes the only clock you need. It counts out the seconds in long, slow measures, stretching the night into an eternity of quiet peace. The mist around you seems to have thickened, weaving itself into a soft, gray tapestry that hangs motionless in the air. It muffles the world, turning the ship into a private sanctuary. You cannot see the bow from where you stand. The front of the vessel has dissolved into the white vapor, leaving you with the feeling that you are standing on a wooden island that ends just a few feet away. This lack of visual depth is surprisingly comforting. It creates a small, intimate space where the mind can rest. There is no need to scan the horizon, because the horizon has come to you, wrapping you in a cool, protective embrace that shields you from the vastness of the open ocean. The air is heavy with moisture, tasting of salt and deep, cold currents. It settles on your skin like a fine, cool dust, refreshing and calming. You can feel the dampness penetrating the heavy wool of your coat, not as a chill, but as a weight. It feels like a layer of armor, a heavy blanket that presses down on your shoulders, signaling your muscles to release their tension. You are insulated here, wrapped in layers of wool and fog and silence. The outside world, with its noise and its demands, feels like a story told in a different language, miles and years away. Here, there is only the wet wood, the cool air, and the slow, steady breathing of the tide. You listen to the quiet symphony of the ship at rest. It is a music of subtle shifts and settlements. A rope creaks softly as it stretches with the moisture. A timber sighs deep within the hull, adjusting to the pressure of the water. The condensation dripping from the rigging hits the deck with a rhythmic tap, 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 a sound that is distinct and yet gentle, like a soft rain falling on a roof. These sounds are not interruptions, they are the texture of the silence. They remind you that the ship is alive, a breathing entity of oak and iron that is resting just as you are resting. You find your own breathing slowing down to match the cadence of these sounds, inhaling with the creak of the rope, exhaling with the drip of the water. The darkness of the water alongside the hull is absolute. Looking down, you cannot see where the wood ends and the sea begins. They have merged into a single shadow, a dark, fluid boundary between the solid world and the liquid one. You can hear the water, though. It whispers against the planks, a soft, sibilant hush that sounds like a secret being told over and over. It is the sound of the ocean caressing the ship, holding it up, carrying it forward. There is no violence in this water tonight, only support. It feels thick and slow, a bed of heavy liquid that cushions the vessel and absorbs every shock, leaving only the gentle rolling sway that lulls you deeper into relaxation. As you lean against the rail, you become aware of the vibration of the ship. It is a low, constant hum that travels up through the soles of your boots. It is not a mechanical vibration, but an organic one, the resonance of the wood responding to the energy of the sea. It feels grounding, connecting you to the heart of the vessel. You are no longer just a passenger. You are part of the structure. You are anchored here, held fast by the weight of the ship and the grip of the ocean. This feeling of connection brings a profound sense of security. You do not need to hold on. The ship is holding you. The amber light from the stern lantern reflects off the wet deck, creating a pool of soft, golden illumination near your feet. The light does not sparkle, it glows, diffused by the mist into a warm, hazy aura. It reveals the grain of the wood, the deep, dark lines of the oak that have been etched by years of salt and sun. You trace these lines with your eyes, following the patterns of the wood, getting lost in the simple, repetitive texture. It is a visual anchor, a warm spot in the cool, gray night that draws your attention and holds it, allowing your thoughts to dissolve into the soft, golden light. Time continues to stretch, losing its shape and its urgency. The night feels spacious, wide enough to hold all the silence in the world. You are floating in the center of this space, drifting on a current of peace. The ship moves, the ocean breathes, and the mist swirls, but you are still. You are the quiet observer, the resting traveler, suspended in the gentle, heavy calm of the drift. You let your eyes close again, feeling the cool air on your face, listening to the hush of the water, and sinking deeper into the slow, rhythmic comfort of the sea. The stillness deepens as you stand there, becoming a physical weight that rests softly against your eyelids. With your eyes closed, the world is reduced to its most elemental forms: the gentle sway of the deck, the cool touch of the mist, and the rhythmic sound of the water. You can feel the ship rising on a long, slow swell, a movement so gradual it feels like the earth itself is taking a deep breath. You rise with it, weightless for a moment in the dark, before settling back down into the trough with a smooth, cushioned descent. This cycle is endless and hypnotic, a slow-motion cradle that rocks you deeper into a state of absolute rest. The dampness in the air has settled on your skin, leaving a fine, cool layer of moisture that feels refreshing. It is not a cold that chills, it is a coolness that calms. It soothes the heat of the day, washing away any lingering tension in the muscles of your face and neck. You can feel the collar of your coat, heavy with the mist, pressing gently against your skin. This weight is comforting, a tactile reminder that you are protected, wrapped in layers of wool and atmosphere that shield you from the vast, empty space of the ocean. You are insulated, hidden within the fog, safe in your own private sphere of quiet. You listen to the water moving along the side of the hull. It does not splash or crash, it slides. It is a sleek, continuous sound, like heavy silk being pulled over smooth wood. It speaks of a lack of friction, of a journey that requires no effort. The ocean is not fighting the ship tonight. It is allowing it to pass. The water parts willingly, curling away from the bow in smooth, silent sheets that disappear back into the dark. This sound of effortless movement travels through the timber of the rail and into your hands, a subtle vibration that tells you, without words, that everything is moving exactly as it should. High above, In the invisible lattice work of the rigging, the condensation continues to gather. You can hear the occasional drop of water releasing from a spar, falling through the silent air to strike the deck. Tap. A long pause. Tap. It is a slow, irregular clock measuring out a time that has no meaning here. There is no schedule to keep, no watch to turn. The night stretches out in both directions, infinite and gray. This lack of urgency allows your mind to unspool, to let go of the need to track the minutes. You are simply existing in the space between the drops, suspended in the quiet waiting of the mist. The amber light from the lantern at the stern feels present even through your closed eyes. It is a warm, sensed glow, a feeling of gold in a world of gray. You imagine the light struggling through the fog, diffusing into a soft, hazy aura that wraps around the stern of the ship. It illuminates the wet planks, turning the deck into a mirror of dark, polished wood. It catches the brass of the wheel, turning the metal into dull, glowing embers. This warmth is a visual anchor, a center point of heat and light in the cool, damp night. It reminds you that there is a heart to this vessel, a fire that keeps burning even in the deepest silence of the sea. You become aware of the depth beneath you, the miles of silent black water that stretch down to the ocean floor. It feels vast, but not empty. It feels solid, a dense supporting medium that holds the ship up with ease. You can sense the pressure of the water against the hull, a firm, constant embrace that cradles the wood. The ship floats on this density, light and buoyant. You realize that you are being held up by the ocean, supported by its immense power. There is no struggle to stay afloat. The nature of the water is to support, and tonight it supports you completely, carrying you through the dark without asking for anything in return. Your breathing has synchronized with the slow roll of the ship. You inhale as the deck lifts, drawing in the cool, salt-rich air. You exhale as the deck lowers, releasing the weight of your body into the rail. It is a shared rhythm, a partnership between your lungs and the sea. With every breath, you feel a little heavier, a little more rooted to the deck. The boundary between you and the ship begins to blur. You are no longer a passenger standing on the wood. You are part of the vessel, drifting in unison with the tide, moving slowly and silently through the peaceful, heavy mist of the Atlantic night. The moisture in the air has become a quiet presence, settling softly against your skin like a veil of cool silk. It gathers in microscopic beads on the wool of your coat, weighing down the fabric until it feels like a heavy, protective mantle draped across your shoulders. This weight is grounding. It anchors you to the moment, preventing your mind from drifting back to the land or forward to the dawn. There is only this sensation of cool dampness, a feeling of being washed clean by the atmosphere itself. You breathe in the mist, tasting the faint metallic tang of the open ocean, a flavor that is ancient and pure, untouched by the dust of the world. The darkness beyond the rail is not a void, but a soft, textured curtain of charcoal gray. It does not feel empty, it feels full of silence. The fog has erased the sharp line of the horizon, blending the sea and sky into a single, seamless continuum. You are floating in a sphere of vapor, suspended in a place where direction has lost its meaning. There is no north or south here, only the gentle, rhythmic rise and fall of the deck. This lack of orientation is a relief. It frees you from the need to navigate, to plan, or to steer. The ship knows where it is going, drifting on unseen currents that flow deep beneath the surface. You listen closely to the sound of the hull moving through the water. It is a soft, sibilant hush, like the sound of breath escaping slowly. The wood does not crash against the waves, it slides over them, polished smooth by years of passage. This is the sound of non-resistance. The ocean yields to the ship, parting its dark waters to allow the vessel to pass, then closing up silently in the wake. It is a continuous, fluid motion that feels effortless. You imagine the keel slicing through the black water, miles from any shore, a solitary traveler moving through the peace of the night. Above you, the great canvas sails hang heavy and still, soaked with the night's humidity. They are no longer white, they are a deep, damp gray, curved gently by the memory of the wind. They do not flap or shudder. Instead, they absorb the silence, holding it within their folds. Every now and then, as the ship rolls deeper into a swell, the canvas exhales a low, rustling sigh. It is a sound like sheets shifting in a quiet room, a domestic, comforting noise that speaks of rest. The rigging, too, is silent, the ropes swollen and slack, dripping water onto the deck in a slow, irregular cadence that marks the passing of time without counting it. The amber light from the stern lantern continues to burn, a steady, warm heart in the center of the cold mist. Its glow does not reach far, barely touching the mainmast, but its presence is felt. It casts long, soft shadows that stretch out across the wet planks, moving back and forth with the sway of the ship. These shadows are not sharp or menacing. They are blurred at the edges, dissolving into the fog. You watch them slide across the deck, darkening the wood for a moment before retreating, a slow, hypnotic dance of light and dark that repeats endlessly with the motion of the sea. Beneath your feet, the ship feels solid and unshakable. You can sense the mass of the timber, the heavy oak ribs that curve around you, protecting the pocket of air where you stand. The wood hums with a low-frequency vibration, a resonance transferred from the deep water. It is a feeling of strength, of endurance. This vessel has weathered storms and crossed oceans, and tonight it rests. You lean your weight fully against the rail, trusting the wood to hold you, trusting the ship to carry you. There is no need to hold on tight. The motion is gentle enough that you can simply sway, letting your body find its own equilibrium with the sea. The depth of the ocean feels present, a vast, silent space extending miles below the keel. You can sense the cold, heavy water supporting the ship, lifting it up with an infinite, patient strength. The vessel is just a speck on the surface of this deep, dark world, yet it is held securely. The ocean does not let go. It cradles the ship, rocking it with a slow, maternal rhythm that has not changed since the beginning of time. This knowledge brings a profound sense of safety. You are being held by the earth itself, carried through the night on a tide of quiet power. You let your shoulders drop, let your breath slow, and allow yourself to sink deeper. into the gentle, drifting peace of the mist.
The cool air continues to circulate around you, moving with a slowness that suggests the atmosphere itself is resting. It brings with it the faint, clean scent of rain that has fallen miles away, a smell that is washed and pure. You breathe it in, feeling the coolness travel down into your chest, soothing the warmth of your own body. The contrast is pleasant, a gentle reminder of the boundary between you and the elements. You are warm, the air is cool, and the ship is the solid ground that holds the balance between them. This equilibrium requires no effort to maintain. It simply exists, stable and enduring in the quiet night. You turn your attention to the water just below the rail, where the sea meets the hull. In the darkness, the water looks like polished obsidian, smooth and black and infinitely deep. It does not churn or foam. Instead, it pulses gently, rising and falling against the wood with a movement that is almost imperceptible. You watch the water lap against the planks, a dark liquid climbing an inch up the side of the ship and then sliding silently back down. It is a slow, rhythmic caress, a continuous motion that has been happening since the moment the ship was launched. Watching it creates a stillness in the mind, a synchronization with the slow, hydraulic power of the tide. High above, the stillness of the rigging is absolute. The intricate web of ropes and pulleys, usually singing with tension, is slack and silent tonight. The ropes hang in heavy curves, weighed down by the water they have absorbed. They look dark and thick against the gray sky, lines of charcoal drawn on wet paper. There is no wind to rattle the blocks or whistle through the stays. The only sound from above is the occasional soft sigh of the canvas sails as they adjust to the roll of the ship. It is the sound of fabric breathing, a gentle inhalation and exhalation that ripples through the heavy cloth and fades back into the silence. Your hands, still resting on the rail, feel the dampness of the wood. The grain of the timber is raised slightly by the moisture, creating a texture that feels organic and alive under your fingertips. You can feel the coolness of the water that has soaked into the oak, a connection to the sea that has traveled up through the hull. The wood feels solid, unyielding, a testament to the strength of the trees from which it was hewn. It grounds you, this tactile sensation. It reminds you that you are standing on something real, something built to endure, a floating fortress that protects you from the void. Time feels less like a river here and more like a deep, still pool. The minutes do not flow past, they accumulate, deepening the sense of peace. There is no urgency to check the stars for navigation, no need to calculate the distance to the next port. The ship is exactly where it needs to be, drifting in the center of the night. You feel a sense of permission to let go of the past and the future, to inhabit this singular, extended moment of rest. The heavy, moist air wraps around you, slowing your thoughts, encouraging you to simply stand and breathe and be. As the ship heels slowly to starboard, you feel your weight transfer effortlessly through your boots. Your body has learned the language of the deck. You do not fight the motion, you yield to it. You sway gently, a pendulum swinging in slow motion, finding your center of gravity with every roll. This physical surrender brings a deep relaxation to your muscles.
The tension in your legs dissolves. The tightness in your back releases. You are supported by the ship, and the ship is supported by the sea. It is a chain of support that stretches down into the depths, holding you safe, holding you steady, holding you in the gentle, rocking embrace of the drift.
The silence of the ocean is vast, extending out beyond the fog for thousands of miles. It is a quiet that feels ancient, a stillness that has existed here long before ships ever crossed these waters. You can feel the weight of this silence pressing gently against the hull, dampening the vibration of the timber. It is not an empty silence, but a full one, rich with the presence of the deep. It wraps around the vessel like a thick velvet cloak, insulating you from the noise of the world. Standing there, you feel a sense of profound privacy, as if you were the only person awake on the entire planet, keeping a peaceful watch over the sleeping sea. The amber light from the stern lantern seems to burn with a slower cadence now. The flame inside the glass housing is steady and unmoving, a vertical stroke of gold in the gray night. It casts a warm, hazy circle on the wet deck, illuminating the droplets of water that have gathered on the wood. Each droplet acts like a tiny lens, capturing the light and holding it. You watch them shimmer with the subtle vibration of the ship, tiny stars in a wooden sky. They are beautiful in their simplicity, transient jewels formed by the mist and the night air. Watching them, your gaze softens, losing its focus, allowing the patterns of light and water to blur into a comforting abstraction. Beneath the planks of the deck, the ship's timbers settle deeper into their rest. You hear a low, rhythmic creaking coming from the mainmast, a sound like a heavy door leaning against a frame. It is the sound of the wood relaxing, expanding slightly in the damp air. This ship was once a forest, standing tall on a distant hillside, and tonight, in the quiet, it seems to remember that stillness. The wood feels alive under your hand, cool and textured. You run your fingers over a knot in the rail, feeling the smooth, circular grain. It grounds you, this connection to the physical reality of the ship. It is solid, real, and enduring. The air around you is thick with the scent of the sea. It is a complex aroma, layered with the scent of salt, deep water, and the faint, sweet scent of wet hemp. It fills your nose and lungs with a coolness that feels cleansing. Every breath is a slow, deliberate intake of peace. The heavy, moist air seems to slow everything down, coating the world in a layer of calm. It settles on your clothes, weighing down the fabric, pulling your shoulders away from your ears. You feel anchored by the atmosphere, held in place by the gentle pressure of the fog. As the ship rolls slowly to the left, you feel the fluid in your inner ear shifting, a subtle sensation of balance being recalibrated. Your body knows this motion. It anticipates the return roll to the right, leaning gently into the sway. It is a dance of micro-movements, a constant fluid adjustment that keeps you upright without effort. This surrender to gravity is deeply relaxing. You are not holding yourself up. The ship is holding you. The ocean is holding the ship. You are part of a great chain of support that stretches all the way down to the seabed. Looking out into the gray void, you realize that the concept of distance has vanished. There is no near or far, only here. The fog has brought the boundaries of the world in close, creating a cozy, intimate space.
You are floating in a bubble of existence, separated from the past and the future. This feeling of suspension allows your mind to quiet down. The thoughts that usually race through your head have slowed to a crawl, matched to the lethargic rhythm of the swell. They drift by like the mist, formless and unattached, dissolving before they can take root. The water along the hull continues its ceaseless whisper. It is a sound of pure fluidity, of liquid moving against solid without conflict. You imagine the millions of gallons of water displacing around the curve of the bow, folding back into the dark wake. It is a seamless process, a silent parting and rejoining. The ocean heals itself instantly, leaving no scar, no trace of your passage. This impermanence is soothing. It reminds you that you are just a visitor here, passing through the night on a journey that leaves the world exactly as you found it, quiet, dark, and asleep. You close your eyes again, letting the darkness behind your lids merge with the gray darkness of the fog. The sensation of the ship's movement becomes more pronounced, a gentle heaving that rocks you from head to toe. It feels like being carried in the arms of a giant, walked slowly across a vast, soft plain. The rhythm is steady and reassuring, a pulse that beats slower than your own heart. You let yourself sink into it, giving over your weight, your awareness, and your energy to the slow, heavy drift of the ship through the endless, peaceful night.
The air remains still as it holds its breath as the night deepens around you. The mist has become a physical presence, a soft, cool weight that rests against your skin. It gathers in microscopic beads on the wool of your coat, turning the heavy fabric into a damp, comforting shield against the elements. You can feel the moisture clinging to your eyelashes, cool and refreshing, washing away the fatigue of the eyes. Every blink feels slower than the last. The cool dampness on your face is a gentle reminder of the ocean's proximity, a silent kiss from the sea that tells you to relax, to lower your guard, and to simply be. You run your hand slowly along the top of the wooden rail. The grain of the timber is swollen with moisture, raised and rough under your fingertips. It feels ancient and solid, a piece of the earth that has been reshaped by the sea. You can feel the coolness of the wood seeping into your palm, a grounding sensation that connects you to the physical reality of the ship. The rail is steady beneath your hand, even as the deck tilts gently beneath your feet. It is a point of contact, an anchor that keeps you tethered to the present moment while the rest of the world dissolves into the gray void. The amber light from the stern lantern seems to hang suspended in the fog, a glowing orb of soft, diffused gold. It does not push back the darkness, it merely stains it. The light catches the drifting vapor, illuminating the slow, swirling currents of the air. You watch the mist curl and fold around the lantern housing, moving like slow smoke in a quiet room. It is mesmerizing to watch, a silent, fluid dance that has no beginning and no end. The light creates a small, warm bubble of visibility, a cozy sphere that feels safe and intimate in the vastness of the night. High above, the rigging is a maze of shadows and silence. The ropes, usually taut and singing with the wind, are slack tonight. They hang in heavy, graceful curves, weighed down by the water they have absorbed. You can see the dark lines of the hemp against the lighter gray of the sky. motionless and peaceful. Every now and then, a single drop of water releases from a spar high in the darkness. It falls through the silence, a tiny silver plummet that lands on the deck with a soft, wet tap. It is a lonely sound, but not a sad one. It is simply the ship breathing, shedding the weight of the mist one drop at a time. The silence of the ocean is a texture as much as a sound. It is thick and heavy like velvet wrapped around your ears. It muffles the creak of the timber and the lap of the water, turning them into distant, dreamlike noises. The world beyond the rail has ceased to exist. There is no horizon to scan, no stars to navigate by. There is only the gray wall of the fog, a soft boundary that closes the world in around you. This limitation is soothing. It means there is nowhere to look, nowhere to go. You are free to stand here in the center of the quiet and let your mind drift along with the ship. As the vessel rolls slowly to port, you feel the gentle shift of gravity. Your body sways in sympathy with the movement, a fluid adjustment that requires no thought. You are water within a vessel of wood, moving with the tide. This rocking motion is the oldest rhythm on earth. It is the motion of the womb, of the cradle, of the tides that pull at the shores of every continent. It speaks directly to your muscles, telling them to soften, to release their hold. The tension melts from your shoulders, flowing down through your arms and out into the rail, leaving you feeling lighter, hollowed out, and ready for sleep. Beneath the waterline, the hull slides through the sea with a hush. The water is black and deep and cold, but tonight it is gentle. It parts for the ship without resistance, curling away in smooth, oily sheets that disappear back into the dark. You imagine the keel cutting through the silence miles below the surface, gliding over currents that have been flowing since the world began. The ocean is carrying the ship. It is lifting it up, supporting its weight with an infinite, patient strength. You are held by the sea, cradled in the palm of the deep, safe and secure in the drifting night. Time stretches out, becoming thin and translucent. The minutes do not tick by. They flow like syrup, slow and sweet. You have lost track of how long you have been standing here. It could be minutes, it could be hours. It does not matter. The night is long and spacious, with room enough for all the rest you need. You lean your head against the cool wood of the mast, closing your eyes, and let the darkness behind your lids merge with the gray darkness of the fog. You are drifting, floating, sinking deeper into the heavy, peaceful silence of the Atlantic. The vibration of the mast against your head is a low, soothing hum, a sound that is felt more than heard. It travels through the dense timber, resonating from the keel buried deep in the water, all the way up to the truck at the very top of the spar. It is the purr of the ship, a constant, steady frequency that has become the background noise of your existence. This vibration feels ancient, like the earth itself is humming a quiet note. It loosens the tightness in your jaw and the muscles of your neck. You let the heavy wood take the weight of your head, surrendering the need to hold yourself upright. You are leaning into history, supported by the strength of oak that has stood for centuries. The mist continues to weave its slow, silent patterns around the deck. It moves like a living thing, soft and formless, curling around the base of the capstan and drifting through the open spaces of the rail. It dampens the amber light of the lantern even further, turning the glow into a faint, pulsing aura that barely penetrates the gray. This limited visibility is a gift. It draws your world in close, creating a sense of intimacy and protection. You are not exposed to the vastness of the ocean. You are hidden, tucked away in a small, private pocket of peace where nothing can find you and nothing is expected of you. You listen to the rhythmic dripping of the condensation. It falls from the rigging in a slow, irregular cadence. Plip. A beat of silence. Plip. The sound is wet and distinct against the quiet background of the sea. Each drop is a tiny measure of time, marking the moments without rushing them. The water gathers on the deck in small, shallow pools that reflect the dim light. They shimmer with the vibration of the ship, trembling slightly like mercury in a glass. Watching them, or simply imagining them behind closed eyes, becomes a meditation. It is a focus point that allows the rest of your thoughts to dissolve and float away into the fog. The air remains cool and still, sitting heavy in your lungs. It tastes of the deep Atlantic, salt-rich and clean. Every breath feels like it is washing you out from the inside, clearing away the dust and heat of the land. The dampness settles on your clothes, adding a comforting weight that feels like a thick blanket pulled up to your chin. You feel insulated, wrapped in layers of wool and atmosphere. The cold does not bite, it soothes. It quiets the blood and slows the pulse, bringing your body down into a state of hibernation. You are settling in, hunkering down against the gentle chill of the night. Below the rail, the water is a black mirror, smooth and unbroken. It slides past the hull with a silence that is almost supernatural. There is no white water, no turbulence, just the oily, slick movement of the deep sea. You imagine the water parting for the bow, curling away in long, silent sheets, and then closing up again behind the stern. The ocean heals itself instantly. It leaves no path, no trail to follow. This erasure of the past is comforting. It means you are untethered, drifting free from where you came from, moving toward a destination that has not yet formed. You are simply in the middle, in the quiet, fluid now. The sense of gravity seems to shift and soften. The ship rolls gently to starboard, and you feel a subtle pull, a gentle suggestion to lean. Then it rolls back to port, and the pull reverses. It is a slow-motion cradle, rocking you with infinite patience. Your body responds without conscious thought, swaying in harmony with the timber. This movement goes deep, rocking the fluids in your inner ear, lulling the brain into a trance. It is the feeling of being carried in the arms of something much larger than yourself, a feeling of total, passive safety. Time feels expansive, a wide gray ocean of hours that stretches out in all directions. There is no bell to ring, no watch to change. The night is a static thing, holding its breath. You feel no urge to move, no urge to speak. The silence is enough. The mist is enough. The slow, heavy beat of the ship's heart is enough. You let yourself sink further into the support of the mast, feeling the wood, hearing the water, breathing the fog, and drifting deeper into the heavy, velvet quiet of the sea. The wood of the mast feels cool and smooth against your cheek, a solid presence in a world that has turned to vapor. You can smell the pine tar and the old seasoned oak, a scent that rises from the timber as the humidity soaks into the grain. It is a deep, resinous smell, the memory of a forest trapped within the planks. Breathing it in grounds you. It connects you to the physical reality of the ship, even as the fog tries to dissolve everything into gray softness. You are anchored here, held fast by the weight of the wood and the steady, rhythmic pulse of the ocean beneath the keel. The dampness in the air has settled into the very fibers of your clothes, turning the heavy wool of your coat into a weighted blanket. It presses gently on your shoulders, a constant, comforting pressure that encourages your muscles to let go. You feel insulated, wrapped in layers of warmth and cool mist. The cold does not penetrate. It sits on the surface, a refreshing contrast to the heat of your own body. You are a self-contained island of warmth, drifting through the cool, silent breath of the Atlantic. The sensation is one of being protected, hidden away from the demands of the world in a cocoon of quiet comfort. You turn your head slightly, watching the amber glow of the lantern reflect off the wet deck. The light does not sparkle, it spreads. It pools in the shallow depressions of the wood, creating soft golden lakes that shimmer with the vibration of the engine of the sea. The light is diffused, softened by the fog until it has no sharp edges. It is a gentle, hazy illumination that asks nothing of your eyes. You can stare at it without focusing, letting the golden blur wash over your vision, lulling your mind into a state of empty, peaceful drifting. High above, the shadows of the rigging sway in a slow, hypnotic dance. The ropes are thick, dark lines drawn against the lighter gray of the mist. They move with the roll of the ship, swinging slowly to the left, pausing for a heartbeat, and then swinging slowly back to the right. It is a pendulum motion, rhythmic and predictable. Watching it feels like watching the ticking of a very slow clock, one that measures time in breaths rather than seconds. The movement is lazy and heavy, the motion of a world that is in no hurry to get anywhere. The silence is thick enough to touch. It fills the space between the sounds, giving weight to the quiet. You hear the faint, dry creak of the rudder post turning in its housing, a sound like leather stretching. You hear the soft, rhythmic lap of the water against the hull, a sound like a hand smoothing a sheet. And underneath it all, you hear the deep, resonant hum of the ship itself, a constant, steady song that tells you everything is holding together, everything is safe. Your awareness of the ocean expands, moving beyond the rail to the dark water that stretches out for miles. You cannot see it through the fog, but you can feel its presence. It is vast, heavy, and calm. You imagine the deep currents moving slowly in the dark, massive rivers of water sliding past one another in the depths. The ship is riding one of these currents, carried along without effort. You are a passenger on the tide, moving in harmony with the rotation of the earth. There is no resistance here. The ocean carries the ship, and the ship carries you. Time seems to pool around your feet, heavy and slow. The minutes drift by like the mist, uncounted and unhurried. You have nowhere to be, no tasks to complete. The night has granted you a full pardon from the world of schedules. You are free to simply stand here, leaning against the solid wood, breathing the cool air, and feeling the gentle rock of the sea. The ship is your cradle, rocking you with infinite patience, tilting slowly back and forth, soothing the mind, quieting the thoughts, and carrying you deeper into the heavy, drifting peace of the mist.